Thank you for tuning in to the JMKing podcast with Jonathan M. King. That's me. You can listen on all major podcast platforms, including but not limited to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Podbean app, Google Podcasts, Pandora, Amazon Music, and Amazon Echo. Visit my website, jmkingpodcast.podbean.com. The link to my RSS feed is there as well. Last but not least, subscribe to the YouTube channel, JMKing Vids Pods, and follow me on Twitter at JMKing Vids Pods. All links can be found in the description. And now, on with the episode. Welcome back to the JMKing podcast, top 5 movies of all time with my friend Matthew, aka Movie Matt.
Round 3, here we go.
My number 5, District 9. Matthew's number 5, The Lion King. My number 4, Clerks. Matthew's number 4, Schindler's List. My number 3, I'm a whole Christian. Jesus Christ is my savior. I believe in the Bible. I believe when the Bible says that vengeance belongs to the Lord. But this movie, this revenge story right here, in my opinion, better than Kill Bill, better than The Crow. We're talking about The Count of Monte Cristo. The Count of Monte Cristo. This is a 2002 film starring Jim Caviezel and Guy Pearce. It's based on a book, Alex Dumas. I'm not sure. I'm not French. It's not my language. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. But he also wrote
Dumas.
Dumas.
I believe. Dumas.
Dumas.
Alexander Dumas.
Alexander. I don't know.
French.
I'm not. I don't French.
We're not French. We're not French here, people. So
No.
give us a break.
But it's written by this gentleman. He also wrote Three Musketeers, and you can see a lot of the swashbuckling aspects of Three Musketeers, sword fighting, rapiers. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. Swords.
That's what Raphael has in Soul Calibur 2. Right?
Raphael, video game reference. Whoa. That's a pod. That's a
pod
pod right there.
Time.
Fighting games, video games. But seriously though, like I think when I watched this movie, I love the intricacies of the plot. Now it's ABC to me because I've watched it so many times. But I do like movies that really turn my brain on. That really force me to be like intellectually engaged in it. And the way that this is a revenge movie, revenge is a big part of it. And the way that the villains plot against our protagonist, Edmond Dantes, excuse me, it's such a like dastardly plan. And when you really uncover it, you're like, wow, they really thought this through. And good villains and good heroes challenge each other to one up each other and be better. So Edmond Dantes definitely has to come up with his own intricate, or to match the intricacies of them screwing him over. He has to match his own intricacies, planning on how to screw them over back. And I dare say that his plan is even more involved than theirs. And the way that he's challenged to constantly get smarter and think through these things, it just like speaks to me. And this is just the intellectual high-end parts of this movie that I like: the acting, the music, the dialogue, the witticism of the characters, the arc, all of that good film cinematography people call film snob stuff. The movie's got all of that in spades. But what I also like about this movie is it just owns it. It's so cool. And I'm not saying revenge is not cool. Like, that's not, but what I like about the movie, it doesn't preach that revenge is a good thing. Because Edmond Dantes, when he meets his wise mentor character on his hero's journey, when he meets his Obi-Wan, when he meets his Gandalf, the guy he calls him priest. when he gets sent, when these guys screw him over and they send him away into this horrific prison for life, he breaks out after like 12 or 13 years. But when he's there, he meets his mentor figure. And this is a man who doesn't know how to read. I don't want to say he's not intelligent, because you can be intelligent but not be able to read. He never learned how to read. But
He's
he's
just
also
illiterate.
he's illiterate, and he's also like, he's not unintelligent, but
He's
he's
a little
not.
bit like innocent. He's innocent to the world, I would
Yes,
say.
he's like more innocent. He's got a naivete to him, rather.
That kind of like almost Luke Skywalker Star Wars thing, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't know better. He doesn't really know better. He's poor. He's uneducated. He doesn't get a lot. He doesn't have a lot of experience. He works with his hands. He doesn't get to read books. He doesn't get to have dialogue, intellectual. He doesn't get any of that. But when he does get it, every step of the way, it's almost like the people who are his allies on his revenge quest constantly challenge him and say, "Do you really want to go through with this? You've already won. You don't need to keep going this far." The priest says it to him in the prison. His fun fact, Louis Guzman, one of my dad's best friends that grew up together in El Barrio, Spanish Harlem. And I love
He got
that. I love.
connection. You see, he got connections here, people.
I know people. I know people. No, but what I like about his performance, I just all his performances, he's always like Carlito's Way. He's always like this like secondary character, and
character actor.
he plays it so well.
Mm.
And his character he's the way that Edmond Dantes actually gets his loyalty is they have a knife fight and he lets him live, and he says, "Because I let you live, you basically have to serve me for the rest of your life," basically. But they become friends. And Jacopo, that's the name of the character, his sidekick. Jacopo. And Jacopo is like, "Dude, you don't need to go this far." And Edmond is like, "No, I all I have is revenge. I will use it for my revenge. I must seek revenge. I must seek revenge." And at the end of the movie, he kind of learns revenge isn't everything. So what I like about the movie, even though like he does succeed in his revenge plan, the movie doesn't teach that revenge is a good thing. It makes it cool along the way, but along the way, it also kind of makes it's like a cautionary thing. Like, Matthew, what do you think about this movie?
Yeah. So just to give some preface to this, like we did see each other's list prior to this episode, and I've always said, Jonathan, in a way, like this, your number 3 is kind of my favorite film on your list, because who talks about this movie? Like, you know, District 9 has a cult following, Clerks has a cult following, everyone loves Lion King, and you know, Schindler's List is one of the seminal films of the 20th century, but like no one ever talks about Count of Monte Cristo. Like I just literally saw it at random. I think I had Encore at the time, and I caught it on cable. I thought, oh well, this is a pretty good.
It was
movie.
on Encore all
it was on,
the
on
time.
The time. See,
all the time was on Encore.
You see, we're Jersey people, so we probably have the same cable listings. But yeah, it was on Encore literally all the time, and I would really get excited when it would show up on the rotation. Though, I was like, this is a pretty awesome movie, and it's kind of that type of popcorn Hollywood movie that really doesn't get made too much anymore. You don't see the swashbucklers or the romances. You know, I would kind of lump this with kind of like Mask of Zorro from 1998, where it's it's not campy, but there's sort of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of humor.
There's a fun to it.
There's a fun to it, and you know, we don't get wrapped up in political correctness. You know, not all the accents are accurate, or you know, not all the ethnicities are.
Not every French character is played by a French person.
Exactly, you know? But you see, it doesn't matter. It's all about the fun and the spectacle of it, you know. And it, you know, as you pointed out, it's not about. It's about revenge. It's not about like the world in peril or the doom in peril. You know, asteroids hitting the Earth or space invaders. It's a classic, good old fashioned revenge story, though.
Good old fashioned. My friends betrayed me.
Yeah.
They sent me to jail. I learned how to fight in jail. I learned how to read in jail. I broke out of jail, and I'm coming for y'all when I'm out. And that's the basic plot of it.
Simple. I mean, look, there's this line that I mention to you all the time. It's like, and I'm paraphrasing. You correct me if I'm wrong. It's like, you know, that line when Dante said, death is too easy for them. They must suffer as I suffered. It's like I'm not
Oh
only gonna
gosh.
I'm not only gonna
Yes.
go I'm not only gonna pop these mofos. I'm gonna make them lose everything that they hold dear to them, and like I'm gonna embarrass them. I'm gonna exploit them. I'm gonna rob them blind. It's just
But you see, Jacopo, when he first meets Jacopo, before Jacopo becomes like
Cool.
Jaco before Jacopo becomes like his real friend,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, listen, who are these people? And Edmond Dantes is like chewing on like a stick over an open fire.
Mm-hmm.
And just some background, the way that he's able to seek revenge is there's like this treasure that he finds on an island, which is the island of Monte Cristo, which is where he gets his name from. I'm the Count of Monte Cristo. And there's this legendary treasure that that the priest he meets in jail kind of like has a map to, but it's got like clues and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he figures out how to get the gold and stuff. And they get the gold, and they're on that island, and they're talking, and Jacopo's talking. And Jacopo is like, who are these people? And he's sitting there and he's like Mercedes, Count Mondego, Monsieur Villefort. He starts naming everybody. Danglars. He starts naming everybody.
That's your Kill Bill list, right?
Yep. And the Jacopo is like, what? I run up to Paris, bam, 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 bam. I shoot them. I come back. We spend the treasure. How is this a bad plan? And then the line you said, it's like, no, death is too good for them. They must suffer as I've suffered. Everything that they hold dear must be ripped from them, their bank accounts, all of that. They need to suffer as I've suffered, not just kill them. That's what I'm saying. Like, his plan was crazy. The bride in Kill Bill, she just shows up and kills people.
Well, volume 2, but
because remember in volume 2, she's like, "Oh, we're even." It's like no. Wait, what was it? Was it in? No, that was she was talking to Vivica A. Fox in the beginning, and she said, "No, that's not even."
Like, I gotta kill your daughter.
I would kill you.
Your husband.
I would kill little Nakia, your daughter.
Yeah,
and then we'd be about square. We'd be square. She draws it with her fingers, but that's what, like, this movie just has so much of a coolness to him, and I really like the way that he transforms and creates this character, the Count of Monte Cristo, because all of the stuff that he learned in prison from the priest, who is a very well-versed and educated man that teaches him how to teach him about economics and helps him put together the story of how he got betrayed by these people. And he just creates a whole new persona. And the way that that whole scene, I mean, the way that we're introduced to this new character that he's created, the Count of Monte Cristo, the violins, that's one of your favorite scenes as well in the film, Matthew.
and the money, the spending of the money.
The spending of the money. These letters are going out to people. These letters are going out to rich people. Come to the Count of Monte Cristo invites you to a gala. It's crazy. And the way that he introduces himself, there's fireworks, which I didn't know existed back then. Like, call me ignorant. There's fireworks. There's a hot air balloon that he's riding in, and these gymnasts or these trapeze artists, they come out, they jump out of the hot air balloon, and they ride the ropes down, and they tie the ropes down, and he doesn't. I don't think he even opens the door of the. I think someone opens the door for him, and he walks out with a cane and a whole robe. And this is the first time we see him after he came out of prison and really put his plan together. And the scene before this, the door opens, he walks out, and the music is swelling, and everybody's like, ooh, oohs and ahs in the crowd. And he just goes, greetings. And then walks away. And we know that only the people in the front row heard him. And that everyone else is like, what did he say? What they follow him in, and it's just this whole gala of just rich people. But the whole he really doesn't care about any of that stuff. The only reason why he had a whole gala is just because he wanted to invite the guys that betrayed him because they're rich. But it would be like suspicious if he just invited those guys over. So he has a whole gala just to loop in, just to hook, line, and sinker these two guys.
What was that line? He says like, "We will study their weaknesses."
We will study their weaknesses. He buys. What does he do? He buys all of the banks that their money's
Yes,
in,
I know.
and
What a genius
he
play!
just
Yeah, yeah.
buys all the banks and then
That's
says, "You're
smart.
not going to give. They don't. We're not going to give you any more loans. The bank cannot give you like."
What a troll! What a troll!
What a troll! But again, all of this stuff is so cool. The
Okay.
sword fighting is cool. The hand-to-hand combat is cool. The music is cool. It's got that old school, just swashbuckling stuff going on. But the movie's is really about something. It's really about revenge is a dish best served cold, as they say.
Right.
But even though Edmond Dantes is really about that life, at the end of the day, he really finds what's important. And what's important is like love and like real friendship. And it sounds corny, but that's what the movie really, it's got a heart to it.
It's got a heart.
I could talk about it all day. I could talk about the movie all day. I won't. There's just like one more scene. I just kind of want to. Okay, there's two more. There's two more scenes. The first scene, when he gets rich, when he finds all the gold, and he needs to buy a house, like an estate, a mansion, a campus of mansions. The guy just had ridiculous amounts of spending, and he doesn't even go himself. He sends Jacopo, his sidekick, and Jacopo says, "We're here to purchase your lovely home." And the guy is like, "What? That's ridiculous. I will have your horse whipped. Get off my property, you vagabond, or I will call the authorities." And Jacopo's cool about it. He just walks back to the carriage and unhooks it, and all the gold just starts spilling out. He didn't say anything. And the movie immediately cuts to him handing over the deed and the skeleton key. Immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And the last scene, he has this whole plan to, and I don't want to spoil too much of the movie because I want you to go out and watch it. He has a whole plan to get to his like number one target through his son. So he arranges for the son to be kidnapped. And even the son, who's like naive and stuff, because he's a teenager, he doesn't know anything. But like
played by Henry Cavill.
Played by Henry Cavill, Superman, who is not Superman anymore, but there's rumors that he may return to Superman. We don't know. Wait. Fun fact, he's young. He's young in that movie. Still looks like Superman. Still got that jaw. Still got that chin, that cleft. And he gets kidnapped, and along the way, Edmond Dantes meets a whole bunch of pirates. When he escapes the Chateau d'If, he escapes the prison, he meets these pirates, and these pirates become his friends. And the pirates, they kidnap the son and like put him underground in like the catacombs in like Paris or Rome or something. And I think it was Rome. And they're partying. He's partying. He gets kidnapped. And they're like, "How about this? We're gonna send your ring to your father to prove that you've been abducted." And the son is like, "Yeah. The ring has the Mondego crest. It's got my family crest on it. Send it." And the guys are like, "While it's still attached to your finger," and they start laughing like they're about to cut this man's finger and send it to his family. Like, "Yo, we got your son." And the son is like, "Do your worst." And I'm like, "What? The son too?" I mean, he was probably. I mean, he said it too. And then, of course, later on, Edmond, who, by the way, like they don't know it's him. He's pretending to be the Count of Monte Cristo, and he shows up at the birthday party because remember he's trying to get into his Mondego, his best friend who betrayed him. He's trying to get to him through his son. So if I can he arranged the kidnapping, obviously. If I can get the son to like me, the son will that's my way in. So at the son's birthday party, there's a lot of plot details I'm leaving out because I do want you to watch it. But at the son's birthday party, he gives a whole speech about, you know what, Albert? Like he gives a speech, he gives a toast to his son on his birthday, and he says, "Do your worst, Albert, for I will do mine." And it's like when you, as you grow up and as you age in the world, and it's kind of like he's talking from experience, like life is gonna knock you down real hard. People that care about you are gonna do things that you don't like. You're gonna go through some adversity and some challenges. And when that storm of life hits you and it's doing its worst, make sure that you do your worst back in that storm's face. And with that, Count of Monte Cristo, y'all. Matthew, you're number 3.
Number 3. All right. So it's funny that we're on number three because actually the number three is a very dirty word in Hollywood, more particularly in film franchises. Let's see, we got Mighty Ducks 3, Lethal Weapon 3, Rush Hour 3, Shrek the Third. So the number three doesn't really have that much of a big track record in franchises, but one number three movie actually manages to go through the shadows of that bloody number three and actually is the crown jewel of the trilogy.
Hold on,
And
wait, Matthew. I'm sorry. I know this is your intro.
yeah,
I know this is your number three, but can I just,
okay,
but
gotcha.
can I just interject this and say this is the
Sure.
one third film to rule them all,
The one third, yes, yes.
and the
In
one
this
third
in this
film to
case,
find them.
in this case, three is the charm, and that is Peter Jackson's 2003 epic, The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King.
Mm.
So again, background story. I was already a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Well, I didn't read the books, but I fell in love with the first two movies. Love Fellowship, saw in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I bought the theatrical version on DVD, and then I bought the extended version on DVD. Saw Two Towers, theatrical DVD, extended DVD. So I was eagerly waiting for like the third from like how is this epic trilogy like going to end? And then like I think I read somewhere where the runtime was about like 200 minutes. I'm like, are you effing kidding? Like, you expect me to sit through a 200, like almost like 4 hour movie in the theater? It's like,
Sign
no,
me up.
like, it's like, so literally it's with my mother. This was Christmas, around Christmas time, 03. So, and then the movie just starts and it's just like, it's hard to pick my brain to share with you folks say something concise because it was just so much happens in that film. It was probably I think to this day probably the most epic experience I had in a movie theater. It's just so much happens in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You got there's this entire sequence. It's not even dialogue, it's just pure music and visuals where you have Gandalf and Pippin riding through Minas Tirith. It's just this maybe minute and a half montage of them just riding through the city, and it's just glaring and epic, and it's awe. In a movie that's so dense in plot, they actually take pause and just admire all the visuals.
Let's revel in the majesty of
Let's
this.
revel in the majesty.
The city. So let me put the city that the city that he's talking about is a city that's built into a mountain.
Yeah.
It's not like a regular flat city, kind of like
a white city.
It's not like a city like New York City. It's it goes upward. So we see Gandalf riding a horse into the city from the bottom entrance, and then we see him riding up all of the different levels to the top of it. In the cinematography, go ahead, Matthew. I just want to interject that piece so they can visualize what kind of city we're talking about here.
Not only is there that great minister scene, but one of my favorite scenes in the entire trilogy, maybe top 5 even, was the lighting of the beacons.
Yes.
My God, it was literally, it's almost this montage of all these beacons being lit, because obviously it's kind of like the emergency signal saying hey, yeah, Mordor's about to attack, so we gotta get back up here. And it's so fascinating because, and this will probably be another podcast, but this is how film adaptation from book to film, where it is clever to deviate, because I believe in the book the beacons were already lit prior to Gandalf arriving to Minas Tirith, but in the film they decided to kind of show the lighting of the beacons, because from their point of view, the filmmakers, it's kind of you have these two kingdoms like Rohan and Gondor, who were so divisive. They really do not want to talk to each other during this whole crisis thing, but it's in this one moment where the race of men decide to unite themselves against the forces of evil. So that's pretty much a huge historical event in Middle Earth. So but we know Jackson, he can do the spectacle, he can do the creatures and the armies, and not one but two epic army speeches, one from Theoden, one from Aragorn,
Frodo.
Sons of Gondor, Sons of Rohan.
Frodo.
poor Frodo. But you know what the most epic scene in the entire film is? Like, amidst all the creatures and all the special effects, is like, it's literally Frodo and Sam.
Oh no.
They're okay, and this is a scene that can make grown men cry. Okay, and
Oh gosh.
I can never sit through that scene without shedding like literally tears in my face. Like, it's really Frodo and Sam crawling on top of Mount Doom, and like, because he like literally Frodo is at the peak of his journey, and it's taken so much from him, and he literally cannot. He's literally on all fours, like crawling in this mountain, but he's so close. But the ring has taken so much life out of him, and it's like Sam. They're trying to. What does Sam say to Frodo? He kind of looks around. He's like, "Oh my God, we're in the star place."
Remember the
And what?
strawberries?
Remember the strawberries, and the taste of cream and the streams. It's like he was trying to make him remember the happy times, and that's what hobbits are. Hobbits, they're not warriors, they're not wizards. They're all about the simple life. They're introverts. They just want to their home bodies. It's not about saving the world, and yet here we are. And in a way, Sam was trying to remind him of who they are as people. It's the simple times.
Mm-hmm.
It's the pleasure of sharing a beer with your father, or like telling stories to your grandchildren. It's like that's who they really are. And it's just like, and he says, of course, that lady said, if I can't carry it for you, I can't carry you. It's like, not to bring a biblical story, but what was that? And you probably know this better than me, Jonathan. It's that story where like someone was like in the beach, and he talks about like the footprints, and it was like God was the one that carried you.
I think it's more in I think it's
Heavily.
more in the zeitgeist, but I think I know what
Right.
you're referring to about
I
there's like
walked. It's like
once
the steps, and then who were the other steps that walked for me?
it was me carrying you or something like
It was
that.
me carrying you, and
Yeah.
the point. The point is, it's amazing how like the people in our lives who play a very important part of our journey in some ways. And of course, you have that scene. Maybe to not to get into the criticisms. I do think there are a little bit too many endings in the film, but whatever. But when they get to the Grey Havens, where I mean, I basically spoiled the movie at this point, but we're gonna go there.
But spoiler, the good
Spoiler
guys
alert!
win,
Spoiler
guys.
alert! Spoiler alert!
The good
Okay,
guys win.
the good
Okay,
guys win, and
spoilers.
the ring is destroyed. Okay, so it's like they're at the Grey Havens, and Frodo kind of has to go away because the journey has taken so much toll on him that he cannot remain
Yeah.
in Middle Earth anymore. And it's so I watched that scene again, and it's like when he is like in the docking bay, his face is kind of pale because obviously the strains from the journey have taken a toll on him. But when he sets foot on that boat, you could see for one last time the color come back to his face, and he gives one final smile to his friends, and he goes off into the undying lands. And of course, what better way to end one of the greatest, if not the greatest, book to film adaptation? You end with Sam saying exactly the last line of the book, well, I'm back, in the arms of his daughter, and they close the door. And again, in a like, what was it, like 12 hours put together, with all this war and men of importance and elves with bows and arrows, we end with a family enjoying a very peaceful day, closing the door. And something that Jonathan and I talk about, probably the goat of all end credits. You see the artwork of the original novels, and kind of the faces of the cast with Into the West, which of course, again, like I said, will make any grown man cry. So
Stuff, especially if you watch the movie as intended.
exactly,
If you
if you
binge
see,
them, your eyes are burning. That's why you're tearing. But
listen. So Sarah, my girlfriend, like we actually binge because she's never seen Lord of the Rings. So we literally spent like 12 hours like watching this epic story, and then like you feel so exhausted watching the end of these movies, and then when you hear that song at the end, which is about kind of about death and passing on to the next level. It's like it really hits home. It
Yeah, and I
really hits
think
home.
what I like about the ending of Lord of the Rings, it doesn't end in this. Yeah, Lord of the Rings, the whole trilogy, they have their battles.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have their epic, large scale wars,
Hmm.
horses, orcs,
Yeah. The
dragons, eagles,
elephants.
elephants. Like they have all of
Yeah.
that craziness.
Hmm.
But the movie ends, like you said, just on a very like mundane note. It's like a father coming home from work, kissing his
Yeah.
wife on the lips and grabbing his daughter and saying, "Hey baby, how's your day?" And it's like
Perfect.
the whole point of Lord of the Rings is that the world is ending and we need to stop it from ending so that we can go back to normal life.
So we can. I mean,
You
how
know?
true? How true? How true is that? How true is that today?
Yeah, 2020, y'all. It's
To
like
to go back to that sense of normalcy of
we
family and
that's it. The whole reason we're fighting is so that we can go back to normalcy. So the movie ends with normalcy. So because the
Mhm.
characters they achieved exactly what they wanted. All we want is just to be able to go to the grocery store and just buy stuff
Mhm.
without having to worry about how close we are. Well, that's today, how close we are to people wearing a mask. But like, yeah, like we don't want to worry about dragons and people attacking and fires being and orcs trying to ravage our cities and burn our forests down. We don't have to worry about all that. I just want to go. I just want to. They just want to go have some ale with their buddies because that's what hobbits are. It's the race of hobbits in Lord of the Rings. They're like tiny people who just farm. They live very basic lives. They farm, they cook, they eat. They're just regular folk. And I think again, like you were talking, the majesty of the story is that in the all of the wars again that are being fought in this movie has crazy like amazing action.
Yeah, bar
But
none.
the true hero is the one who's unassuming.
Right.
And throughout the entire film, Sauron, the big villain,
Mm-hmm.
whose ring needs to be destroyed, he doesn't even know where it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's like rumors of where it might be, but he's like terrified because he knows the only way that you can destroy his ring
To throw it in the
if he
fire.
is to throw it in his backyard, his volcano in his backyard.
Yeah.
If somebody gets back there, so he's constantly. You even see when we get to Mordor at the end, we see his
Yeah.
eye constantly looking like.
Let's not talk about the Eagles because that's another podcast.
Well, the eagle. Well, we can go there. So the thing with it
Oh,
is
no,
like
no, no! Oh my God,
no,
we're gonna. Oh,
the
geez.
thing with the Eagles, because I used to say, why didn't they just fly the
Yeah.
Eagles? Well, the point is we can't fly Eagles in there because the whole point was this mission was supposed to be a secret. It was supposed to be a covert operation.
Right.
So the Eagles
Exactly.
flying in,
It's
we
giving
would
away your position. Yeah.
yeah, gave that's a, like a really it's like that plot hole is kind of a meme at this point.
Yeah.
Just fly the Eagles. Lord of the Rings has
The
its
Eagles
memes.
are
It's got its
broken.
subreddits. The Eagles are broken, but I
Yeah.
think like for me, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. I don't. It's not my favorite of the three. My favorite is Two Towers.
Which is another episode.
We can talk about that, but it is the greatest ending to a film trilogy there is. It
I
is the
mean,
greatest.
look,
It is the greatest film trilogy there is. It's the greatest.
guys.
Godfather, but this is the greatest adaptation of like a book that I've ever
I mean,
seen.
guys.
They get it.
How many stories, franchises, trilogies actually stick the landing? Okay, how many? Like you walk out of a film series and then the last one doesn't leave a bitter taste in your mouth. You go like damn.
You're like, well, at least the second
Yeah.
one was good. No, Lord of the Rings,
No.
like you're like, okay. I mean, you could argue that the Hobbit trilogy that came after kind of like ruins it
Yeah.
a little, but
Let's set it
I
apart.
forget those movies exist anyway. But when I think about Lord of the Rings, I really think about the journey
But
you go
again,
on with these characters.
not to sound like a broken record, I just have to get this out. It's just it has the scale, has the size, but it's the emotion. It's
That's it.
the emotion that really evokes. It takes time to pause and to ponder about what these people are going through. It's like I said, literally the most epic scene for me amidst all this spectacle are two little hobbits climbing up a mountain.
Yeah,
Okay,
two 3 foot dudes climbing a volcano.
how does that even compare to like thousands of orcs and thousands of men, slashing each other. Like what?
And
But
that's
no,
my
it is
point. That's my point, Matthew. That's why Helm's Deep is better than Pelennor Fields because
another
it's
episode.
smaller.
Another episode.
Because it's smaller scale. Because it's smaller scale, and we spend more time with the people who are actually in the battle. They're not just faceless soldiers going up against
Listen,
faceless soldiers.
Theoden's speech on Pelennor Fields, like, how do you not feel anything when he goes like, "Arise, arise, riders of Rohan," And these people are literally marching to their death. They know they have no shot whatsoever, and it's like, we're going in, boys. We're going in.
We're going in, and they did a lot. And then the elephants
Yeah.
came, and then
Yeah.
but we won in the end because we had the ghosts.
Yeah, well,
We had the
yeah.
ghosts.
So you have to have a Deus Ex Machina sometimes, but don't abuse it though.
Well, there are like 4 or 5 of them in Return of the King. There's the ghost,
Well,
and then the eagles.
one can
and
argue
then-
the Eagles. Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I think Return of the King is definitely it's long, and
does have a lot of endings, which I will admit.
It's got a lot of endings, but that's because it has to wrap up so many stories. And
well,
again, like
when you listen to
the landing,
when you listen to
that's
the commentary, they talk about the endings, right? And then like if I think it's Philippa Boyens, who was one of the screenwriters, she said like, well, you have to understand, like, you're not just wrapping up one movie, you're wrapping up 3. And then Fran Walsh, who's the other screenwriter, she goes, yeah, but you're only watching one at the moment. And it's all like, and then this is how Peter Jackson like ends this debate. He goes like, oh, you know how we're gonna find out who's actually right? It's like a Jello wrestling match. It's like people who hate the ending are on one side, people who don't like the ending are on the other side, and then like they just duke it out, and whoever's left standing on top of the Jello is the right one. So there you go.
That's silly, but I think if there's any final thoughts with Return of the King, I mean, are there any lines that we can leave the people with that just sum up what this movie is all about for us?
I will not say, do not weep, for not all tears are an evil.
I think my line is not even from Return of the King, but I just think about, I wish the ring had never come to me. Like I wish this pressure and responsibility had never come to me.
Can I say the other half?
Go ahead, Gandalf. Go ahead.
Okay, it was like, so do all who live to see such time, but that is not for them to decide. All you have to decide is what to do the time that is given to you.
All you have to do is decide what to do with the time that is given to you. And we thank you for using that time that's given to you to listen to this podcast. All right. So JMKing podcast. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with our number 2 favorite films of all time.
Penultimate.
Mm-hmm. Hey listeners, this is Jonathan M. King here. Now I know we said we'll be right back after this break, and that's because Matthew and I originally conceived these 5 episodes as one giant inaugural episode, but we'd rather not overwhelm you, so we decided to split this up into 5 different pods. That being said, thanks again for spending your time here at the JMKing podcast. Stay tuned and keep listening on your podcast platform of choice. I'm on nearly all of them. Don't forget to visit my website, jmkingpodcast.podbean.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, JMKing Vids Pods, and follow me on Twitter at JMKing Vids Pods. With that, this is Jonathan M. King, signing off.